All right. Jets fans, it is done. It's a wrap. We have made it to the end. Sad to say. Didn't end the way we wanted to. And what an amazing batch of gifts we were given all year. We could have made it. I mean, remember we were talking, we don't know if 11 wins will get you in the playoffs. Well, it turns out 9 would have did it. And we only needed 2 for the last 6 weeks. It is what it is. What are you going to do? We couldn't do it. And it's over. I am grateful. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I'm tired. I'm ready to get back to the constructive side of this thing. It'll take us a minute. But we'll see. I am Green Bean, and welcome to episode 99 of GreenBean's Jets Pod. I am glad that you are here. I'm glad you are here. I really am. And I hope that together we can find a pathway through the muck, through the garbaggio, eh? And this little hat, look at this little helmet I'm wearing. For you audio guys out there in the car and wherever you may be listening, I'm wearing my old Jets helmet. Now, this was bought for me. I was approximately 3 or 4 years old. I've had it the entire time. Amazing that I've had this thing. Right there, you can see that's Vinny Testaverde's signature right there. I got that at the South Florida Jets fan club some years ago, maybe 2010. Exciting year. But yeah, man, this thing, you see all these marks on it? This is because my father and uncles and everybody else, back in the days that it was in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, they believed that it's fun, put helmets on little 5-year-olds and have them run head first into each other. That's how it goes. So we used to do that. And this helmet, I remember how much it used to hurt to put on. Like you see these marks, see all the marks and stuff? Like all the dents and scratches and everything? That's literally from my cousin Joe. He had a Giants helmet, and they used to make us smash into each other. I hated it. I can remember it vividly. I hated that thing. But here we are, man. I'm a Jets fan. I am. I'm a diehard Jets fan, sad to say. I've been hanging out watching this team. For the most part, very, very disappointed since I am a 10-year-old chap. Interesting, right? I had this helmet when I was 4 or 5, but I can't say I was a real Jets fan until I was 10. I had a Jets helmet. I had a football with Earl Campbell's signature on it. Remember those balls? They would have the signature on it. Earl Campbell. So I liked the Houston Oilers song, and I liked Earl Campbell. So I was Houston Oilers. You know, I did the whole thing. So I didn't know. But it turns out I am a Jets fan, and I'm here with you in a position that is unenviable, quite frankly. And to all you new guys, welcome. This is kind of what we do, everybody. It's kind of the deal. Now, I wish it wasn't that way. But we're here again, guys. The season is over. The 2022 season that started with, oodles of potential. More potential than we've seen in 7 years. But really, since 2010. 2015 was fun, and believe me, we enjoyed it, and I'm not taking anything from it, but we also knew that this is it. This is short-lived. Brandon Marshall, Fitzpatrick, we're not going to have these guys for 10 years, 5 years, whatever. We knew that. We just wanted it. Please give us something. Get us in there and give us something. And even that one ended with a crash and a burn, like that kind of thing. So much potential, man. So much potential. And it ended really bad. I mean, the truth is, while I fancy myself one of the, I count myself among the constructive, right? Among the middle of the road. I have my moments. I freak out. I yell. I tell people to go to hell. I do the thing. I get excited. I believe, holy cow, this guy's going to be the best in the league. I do that stuff. But generally speaking, I try to see both ends. I try to see like, well, why do I feel like that? Well, what happened here? I know he looked like this, but was there more to the story? That's where I am. And even I'm going to tell you, this was one of the most epic collapses in New York Jets history. And we have a history of collapses, my friends. Guys, I just wish I could give you all a big hug. Except for you guys trying to make me feel worse. I don't know what that is. Get out of here, you bastards. Why you got to make me feel worse? What is that? Except for you guys, I really wish I could give you, here's a virtual hug. Here, just take a second real quick. You feel it? I'm hugging you. Did it work? I don't know. But guys, listen, we're going to get into a few things. It is episode 99. We're going to do our player profile. I have a couple choices, but I have a feeling you know where we're going to go, which way we're going to go with this one. You can't tell what that is, but I'll tell you in a second. I think that's what we're going to do. We do have a 99 on our squad right now, so we'll see what's up with that. We're going to have a little bit of news of the week, and I think I got an interesting, intelligent gripe for you guys today. We're going to do all that stuff immediately following this. I'm almost there. I told you guys I had a 2-year anniversary on December 31st. I wanted to get to 10,000 subscribers. I did not make it. I am 70 away. A week later, a week later, I am 70 subscribers away. If you have not subscribed to the channel, now is a perfect time. You can help me get to that just amazing plateau. I just can't even believe that I'm this close. And now that I am this close, it's frustrating. It feels so elusive. Just please, if you got a chance, go ahead and hit that sub button, little subscribe button there. It would be greatly appreciated. And give me a like on the way out if you like it. If you don't, you don't have to. I'm not trying to make you do anything you don't want to, but if you do, go ahead. Just don't forget, click that little thumbs up. It means the world. And guys, I wanted to remind you that this particular podcast is sponsored by none other than Manscaped. Interestingly enough, they have a whole beard line coming out. In a week or two, I'm going to be able to show you guys. I cannot wait. As you know, I have a beard. I can't wait to show you guys what the beard line looks like. It's going to be fun, but this particular item is going to be given away this week to subscribers only. I tried to give it away last week. The winner never claimed the prize, so it is now back. This is the beautiful nose and ear hair trimmer named the Weed Whacker from Manscaped, the finest in below the waist men's grooming. I use the products myself. I mean this sincerely. I'm enamored with them. I like every single product that I have from them. I have this, I use this, and I'm giving this one away. As you can see, it is unopened. We gave the last, we gave away the Lawnmower 4.0, which is their premier buzzer, the little trimmer, and it has the flashlight on you. So you can see those nether reasons a little bit better than maybe you can without a flashlight. I'm telling you, the flashlight was a game changer for me, and the Weed Whacker 4.0 will be given away this week to subscribers. You have to be subscribed to win the prize. We're also giving away some t-shirts as well this week. We gave away a hoodie last week and some other things. That's only if you are subscribed to the channel, and please, it would be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to purchase Manscaped products, again, the best men's grooming products on the market, you can go ahead, click the link in the description that says Manscaped, and use my promo code GreenBean to save yourself 20% in addition to whatever else they have going on the website. Sometimes you see 10% off this, 20% off that. You throw my promo code on at the end and you'll save an additional 20% off. And as always, with the promo code, you get free international shipping. Manscaped. There it is. Okay, guys. So let's dive right into this podcast. Again, I'm like slap happy at this point. You know, it's like you watched this last game. We got together on the Jetnation live stream. And we're watching, and it's like it's frustrating, and we're rooting, but it's like you get to this point of like delirium. I mean, there were still people, melting down and going, I don't know, I can't find it in me in a game like today. I just can't. It's like, it's ridiculous. For me, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're ridiculous. I'm saying like it's just the situation is ridiculous. I can't believe we're here again, and we have this scenario where we're not even getting into the playoffs. We can play spoiler and we're conservative. Have some fun. You know what I mean? Throw caution to the wind Why didn't we see Streveler or Zach? Throw them out there, man. Have some fun. Throw it down the sideline. Do some deep passes. Like, just have some fun. 4th and 2, go. Why are we punting? Just go. Have a game, no punter. Braden Mann, take the night off. We're just going to go. You know what I mean? Just have some fun. Nope. What we saw today was the 3rd consecutive game with no touchdowns. Phew, gosh. So we're going to dive into all that stuff. I'm going to try to shake off this malaise, and we'll try to do that starting with our player profile for episode 99. You guessed it. You know who it is. I'm going to talk to you about the man that made me a New York Jets fan. Now, there were other men. Freeman McNeil, Wesley Walker. Love those men. Loved them. Kenny O, it was Richard Todd really, but Kenny O really solidified it too. He was in there, Mickey Schuler. But the guy who did it for me, well, there was a group on the field at the same time, and they did it for me, and that's the sack exchange. But there was one guy above all who really did it for me, and that was number 99 himself, Mr. Mark Gastineau, who sadly has reported that he is actually suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's disease. He says that this is most likely from his career. It's a derivative of the beating that his body took on the field, and he's really not doing well. Now, he overcame cancer a couple years ago. He didn't look good, but he made it through it. Strong man. And he fought through it, and he made it. And now here he is. He's suffering with dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's disease. And that's sad to me. Now, the interesting thing about Mark Gastineau is we're going to keep quiet with Mark Gastineau for a little while. I'm going to talk about him now, but we're going to keep quiet. We have a lot to say, but we don't want to ruin something. You see, this is the year. We have somebody really close to being enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that is his line mate, Joe Klecko. Joe Klecko, the All-Pro at 3 different positions, who has been overlooked for decades, is finally in the fray. He was the 2nd choice last year, so he was number 2 on the list. He was overtaken by one man, the wide receiver from the Raiders, got in as the senior candidate. This year, he's top 3 again. So the thing is this. We're this close with one of our guys, right? So we're not going to make any waves with another one. But I'm here to tell you, just a little prelim into what we're going to talk about. Mark Gastineau has 107.5 sacks in a 10-year career. He was a first-team All-Pro 3 of those 10 years. He was a second-team All-Pro another one of those years. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler. He was 3rd in the voting for Defensive Player of the Year on 3 separate occasions, and the all-time sack leader for one season. I know we hear about this crap with Michael Strahan, but up until last year with TJ Watt, no one has even sniffed what Mark Gastineau has accomplished in one season as far as quarterback sacks go. The only guy who came close was Michael Strahan. So what did the NFL do? They decided to hand over the award to Strahan. Everybody loves him. He's this poster child for the NFL. Everybody loves Michael Strahan. They don't like Mark Gastineau. Now, why don't they like Mark Gastineau? Well, couple reasons. One is kind of bullshit, and the other one you can make some sense out of. Now, back in the day, Mark Gastineau was famous not only for destroying offensive linemen and sacking the quarterback, he was also famous for something called the sack dance. It was also called the war dance, but let's call it the sack dance. So Mark Gastineau would sack the quarterback, and he would do this thing. He would go, yeah! He would just dance around and do a thing. Everybody hated it. The NFL hated it. The teams hated it. The announcers hated it. They seethed. They hated. Can someone just stop this friggin' guy from being so good? They wanted him to fail so bad. Even to the point that there was a very famous game where the Rams players attacked him after he sacked the quarterback and did his little dance. The Rams players attacked Mark Gastineau. There was a huge brawl. His team came to his defense, and the whole thing, Marty Lyons was throwing people around. We had animals on our team. The announcer, instead of saying, hey, that was uncalled for, why did they attack him from behind? They attacked the defenseless, they weren't even looking at him, and they attacked him. Instead of saying that, they said, he'll think twice before he does that again, before he celebrates again. This is what we were watching. This is the take of the NFL toward Mark Gastineau. They hated him. Now, the other reason is this. He was rumored to be on steroids. Now, the truth is lots of guys were on steroids. But you look at Mark Gastineau, he was ahead of his time. He was long, lean, ripped, tall. He was a monster. Man amongst boys. But you want to know the real reason they don't like him? All that. That's all real. That all happened. You want to know why they don't like Mark Gastineau? Because there was a strike season. The NFL players, remember like in 2011, there was almost a strike for the collective bargaining agreement? Well, there was actually an NFL strike. A lot of you younger fans don't know this. There was a strike. The NFL players stopped playing games. They picket line, the whole thing. Interesting response to that by the NFL. They went and got what we called scab players. Remember the scab players? Now, I don't remember how many games, 2, 3, 4 games where they used the scab players. Some people went to the games. It was really empty stadiums, and the NFL tried to say, hey, we don't even need you. Anybody can put on our uniform, and the fans will come, and we don't need to deal with your crap. Well, that were wrong, and most fans didn't come. Some fans did. But Mark Gastineau was a very rare player who crossed the picket line to play. Now, what he said back then was, I respect the owner and I respect the coach, Joe Walton. And then he said, I just don't want to, I don't have the same issues and I just want to play football. Well, the team hated him for that. The NFL hated him for that. The Players Association hated him for that. They never let him get past that. So here's the thing. Mark Gastineau came out. He was a rookie in 1979. He opened his career with 2 sacks. Not bad. Started one game, got 2 sacks. Now, the next year, he played all 16 games, and he has 11.5 sacks. Now, before 1982, these sacks are amended. They didn't keep track of sacks before that. 1982 is when they started keeping track. The sack numbers before that were compiled by somebody, and they now add them in. It's like, hey, man, these stats should be included, but they're not official by the NFL. So he got 2 sacks his rookie year, 11 and a half sacks his sophomore year. His third year, 1981, he comes out, he plays all 16 games, and he has 20 sacks. 20 sacks. Now, the next year he gets injured and he plays 9 games, but he still has 6 sacks. Now, the third year he was, he's an all-pro and a Pro Bowler, and he was 3rd in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. 1983 comes around, which is his 5th year now. He gets 19 sacks. 19 sacks. So he had 20, 6, 19. He gets All-Pro, and he gets Pro Bowler, and he's 3rd in the voting, or he's 5th in the voting for Defensive Player of the Year. The next year, 1984, this is the big one. So you think about that. 20 sacks, 19. That's not even the big stuff. 1984, he comes out and he has 22 sacks. He also finds himself with a fumble recovery and a touchdown. 22 sacks in one season in 16 games. The following year, he plays 12 games. He has 13 and a half sacks. Then he gets, a lot happens. He plays 7 games. He gets 2 sacks. The interesting thing is this. He kind of has a dip, right, in his production. He comes back 1988. I remember this year vividly. He was having a resurgence. He was played 7 games, and he has 7 sacks, and he decides to retire midseason after 7 games. He's looking great. He's looking every bit like he's going to be the Mark Gastineau that we know and love, and he retires midseason. Now, why? Because his wife at the time, Brigitte Nielsen, who you may know from Rocky IV, she was the Ivan Dragov's girlfriend. Ivan Drago. She was the girlfriend, smoking weed or whatever, doing the tests, right? So he's married to her. She gets sick, and he retires from football to take care of her. Admirable, right? You can't fault the guy, but the football world didn't like that, and we never heard from Mark Gastineau again. So he has all these weird taints on his resume, but the truth is, no better pass rusher in NFL history. None. He dominated. Now, people like to say, oh, but he was a weakness in the run game. Who cares? He did them. There's one thing that is considered defensively the most important thing to do, and that is pressure the quarterback. He did that better than anyone else in the entire NFL, and quite frankly, pretty much anyone, period. Again, Michael Strahan got close. He was a half sack away, I think it was. They decided he was playing the Packers, and it was the fourth quarter, and he didn't get his sack, so Brett Favre rolled out and laid on the ground for him, and we all went nuts, and the NFL pretended like nothing happened. Mark Gastineau was there. He hugged him. He congratulated him, and everybody just put Mark Gastineau into the trunk and threw him in the closet, and it's wrong. So as soon as Joe Klecko gets in, which he's getting in this year, as is Darrelle Revis, we're going to make our case for Mark Gastineau. A guy this good should not be ignored. And there it is, the player profile, the greatest of all time where pass rushing is concerned. None other than Mark Gastineau, number 99, my man who got me into the New York Jets. It's your fault. You did this to me. But there he is, Mark Gastineau, everybody. Now, look, man, there's lots of, we can pluck, right? We can take our Jets careers, our fandom careers, and we can pluck great moments, terrible moments, embarrassing moments, despair. And today, this week, at the end of this season, we have to count this among the most disappointing of all. And to dissect that a smidgen, let's get into the news of the week. We lost 11-6. Another game without a touchdown. I think we didn't score a touchdown since the Detroit game. Isn't that fun? Who knew? Who knew that would be the last time we got into the end zone? Doesn't matter that we have Garrett Wilson, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Bam Knight, Denzel Mims, Corey Davis, Jack Conklin, Ruckert, Uzoma. Doesn't matter. We can't find a way into the end zone. Can't do it. And this was another game. But why did it get to 11? Would you like to just recall with me? Why did it get to 11? Well, we had 5 seconds left in this terribly boring game. Now, we know it's more than likely Joe Flacco's last pass. It's definitely his last pass as a Jet. I just would be blown away if they decide to bring him back. So it's his last pass as a Jet, most likely. But realistically, it just might be the last pass of his career. Instead of dropping Joey Joe back, sending everybody you got down the side, let him put some air into that ball and toss it to the end zone, baby. Nope, it's like a wide receiver screen or something behind the line of scrimmage. They throw it, and Garrett Wilson catches it, and he's running around, and he laterals it, and then he laterals it. And the funny part about it was at no point did the lateraling go forward progress. Not for 1 second. It was backwards, 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 backwards. We end up in our own end zone. We throw it one more time. Fumbles it. Miami picks it up. And there it is, 2 points. So we end this game on a safety, which is kind of like payback, right? We got them. We started the first game with a safety on Teddy Bridgewater. Sauce Gardner with the amazing sack and fumble. And they ended it with a sack. Not a sack, but a fumble and a safety. So it's kind of apropos, as we say. But what a game, dude. What a game. Now, look, this is an interesting thing to look at because it's really easy to get stuck in this, right? Like the feelings. Just an embarrassing performance. But if you just look at the defense, this is the 6th game out of all of our losses, the 6th. That is a one-score game. And this is one of a handful of games that they've held the other team to one touchdown. I mean, this defense, guys, if we're going to look at something, we're going to throw all the stones we can at the negatives, you got to prop up some of the positives, man. Even though this defense is unfinished, imperfect, we got tackling, we may have whiffed on Jordan Whitehead. You know what I mean? We have some things to look at, but by and large, this defense has gotten almost no help from the offense this whole second half of the season. Very little. Well, you can say the Vikings game and the second Bills game. After that, man, this offense just decided we no longer care about points. We no longer understand how to play football. Zach doesn't matter. Mike White, who cares? Joe Flacco, nope. We don't know. Streveler, we don't know how to get in the end zone. We don't know how to do it. The defense has kept us. And once again, this is a game that the defense did not give up a touchdown. Now, you can say what you want, Skylar Thompson, and yeah, sure. But it's week in, week out. This defense is holding them to one score. Games, 20 points. Let's just look at the last few. You got, in my opinion, the Jaguars beat us, right? They beat us good. It never felt like we had a real chance in it. It just felt dead, lifeless. The defense held them to 19. The Lions game, we had that game. It wasn't for the blown touchdown at the end, but 20 points. The Seahawks, 23. Today, 11. Dolphins, 11. The Bills, 20. The Vikings game was 27-22. Still a one-score game, but shit. What, the last loss, the Patriots, 10-3, and the defense didn't even give up that touchdown. That was special teams. Same thing with the Lions. It's really incredible, man. It's incredible that with zero help from the offense, this defense has been able to hold what they've been able to hold for this team. And that, to me, is, we were 31st, 32nd defense last year. This is a championship level defense. Again, and we're not even done. We could definitely use a nice ball hawk and free safety, maybe even strong safety. We could definitely use a big fat run stuff like the two gaps, mine. We can use Vince Wilfork, you know what I mean? One of those kind of guys. We can use that for sure. Maybe a nice linebacker in there. C.J. Mosley, Jamie Sherwood, and maybe somebody like a Devin Lloyd-esque, right? We can use them. There's always going to be room for improvement. But damn, is this defense good. The offense, riddled with talent. Maybe not all of it is the best. Dude, Garrett Wilson's a stud. We lost Breece Hall. We lost all of our offensive linemen. All those things. But at no point should we have been completely inept. We have to look at this stuff, right? We have to look at, again, and throw our stones where they're supposed to go, right? We're going to throw them. Some are throwing them at Mike Lafleur. Some are throwing them at Robert Saleh. I had to defend Joe Douglas earlier today. Now, look, I get it. The arguments are there. Wait, when you look at things and you say, hey, Joe Douglas has yet to have a winning season. Fair point. Okay? You look at it and you say, Joe Douglas is supposed to be an offensive line guy. It's his specialty. And look at our offensive line. It's a fair point. You can say maybe he whiffed on Zach Wilson. Yep, fair point. You can say he whiffed on the coaching staff. You could. Now, we don't know about that yet, right? But you could. So there's definitely an argument to be made. Now, I'm not going to make this podcast about defending Joe Douglas. We have lots of fun stuff to talk about this offseason. But one thing I will say is this. The New York Jets of 2022, it's a shame that all the losses came in the second half of the season, and it's a shame that we looked this way at the end. Particularly on the offense. The defense was fine. Really. Fine. But the way it felt because of the complete ineptitude on the offensive side of the ball. It's a shame that it went this way because the truth is this team has more potential and is really the fewest pieces away to being a consistently competitive team and playoff caliber that we've had in a long time. We've had in a long time. Now I get it. You know, people, this guy needs to be fired, cut. Hey, I'm not even sure I disagree with everything yet. I have a lot to sort out in this cranial cavity of mine. But when I just look around, when's the last time that we had a defense as good? When's the last time that we had a wide receiver as good as Garrett Wilson? Now, I'm still a believer that Elijah Moore and Mims, we can't find these guys. I don't know what that is. I'm still a believer that those guys are talented. In Breece Hall, we lost him. But guess what? We still have Michael Carter, Bam Knight, and maybe even Ty Johnson next year. I don't know, James Robinson. But the running backs are still good. Guys, it all boils down to one thing. It's the quarterback position. And again, I want to share with you guys one more time. I sit down and I watch this film. I'm not enamored with our offensive scheme, but there are so many plays left on the field that the time is there from the line, as beat up as it is. The time is there, and the guys are open. Whether it's a tight end, whether it's a running back, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a wide receiver and a running back, it's there, and we miss it. Whether it's Zach, sometimes it's Mike White, it's been Joe Flacco throughout the season. We miss it, and it's there. If we had a quarterback that could play average football, Brock Purdy level, I'm a firm believer that we have 9 wins minimum, and that gets us in the playoffs. If I'm being real honest, I think we have 10, maybe 11 wins. With 65% completion percent. That's all we need. That's it. Now, what's 1B? This offensive line is destroyed. Destroyed. Now, the one thing I'll nail Joe Douglas with, even though I was 100% behind it, it was my favorite move of the offseason. And that's Laken Tomlinson. Holy macaroni, is Laken Tomlinson the most confusing bust of a free agent signing I've ever seen. I can't even believe it. It reminds me of Tony Casillas. It's like, what is this? He looks like he's completely lost. It would actually make me feel nice if he just retired. Like, we owe this guy $14 million or whatever it is. I mean, it's expensive. You can't really get out. It costs more money. And everybody's talking about post-June 1st. You know why post-June 1st is less expensive? Because you pay for it more years. So you want to extend how long you're paying Laken Tomlinson? I don't know. And even if it's lessened somewhat, I don't know. It costs more to get rid of him. And what a bummer. Guard was my number one free agent desire last year. Number one target, number one need, guard. Number one guy, Laken Tomlinson. How did it end up this way? So we have some things to look at, but let's be real, guys. Joe Douglas, he's put more resources into this offensive line than any general manager in history for the New York Jets. Whether it's free agents, I mean, we're paying people, we're drafting people. We got first-round picks, and we got 2 first-round picks that he's put on the offensive line. Both are injured, out for this season. He's got a 4th-round pick out for the season. He used another 4th-round pick on Cam Clark, who was never injured in college. He never made it a snap for the Jets. So there's all kinds of weird reasoning for it, but you can't say that he's not putting the resources in. You can't say it. Maybe you would have liked a different guy. Fair points, man. There was a nice contingency of Jets fans that wanted Tristan Wirfs. I can't even lie and tell you that I wasn't one of them. I liked the Becton pick. I thought it had balls. Swing. First pick ever, swing. Go get the monster. Go ahead. I love it. And who knows? Becton could be back. I don't know. Saleh was asked this week about Mike Lafleur. For the first time, guys, he didn't sound 100% sure that Mike Lafleur's. He didn't say it. He had an interesting answer. He said, I have to go through my process. That's what he said. Is Mike Lafleur definitely coming back? I have to go through my process and do the whole thing. And we said, but it's not one guy. Okay. And then there's people that wonder if Saleh's going to get fired. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think so. Here's where I land on the whole thing. Like, you look at this team. Again, if the wins were spread out, and I know that's a big if, but if the wins were spread out, if we did 4 before the bye, 3 after, then we're feeling a little bit better. We are. 7 to 9 wins is what we wanted. Now, the way it happened, it's a complete collapse and it's terrible. But if it wasn't, same deal, just spread out, we feel a lot better. Look at the progress on the defense. 31st last year to arguably top 5 this year. 6 one-score losses. 6. Numerous games without the other team scoring a touchdown. We lost all of those. We're holding the opposite team to no touchdowns offensively. And we're losing. It's insane. When you look at that, you look at the team playing to the final whistle. It started in Cleveland, and it didn't stop the whole year. The only one I felt like was really a drubbing was, well, Jacksonville felt that way, but the real one for me was like the Seahawks. I just felt like we weren't ready. I felt like we just didn't want the playoffs. It was weird. That's the one for me. But other than that, I felt like the team played harder than we've seen in a long time. They didn't give up like we've seen thousands of times. The defense is remarkably improved, and the offensive talent is there. We have a quarterback issue and we have an offensive line issue due to injuries. You can't weather, 3 injuries on left tackle, 3 injuries at right tackle. And by the way, we were starting our 3rd right guard this week. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends on how you look at it. But one thing I'll say about a positive on the offense is Garrett Wilson is a stud. Now, I don't know if he'll win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's in the conversation, and I'm glad that this game, it looked to me like they just decided to turn it over and get Garrett Wilson as much as they could to move toward that goal. I really wish he could have got a touchdown today. I think it would have really made good. Now, Garrett Wilson, today he had 9 receptions for 89, and it's unfortunate because he actually broke 100, but they called the playback. He had 102, and boo! But he had a 36-yard long, which was all him, dude. I mean, the guy, he makes everybody juke. You know what's the saddest part is that he ended up falling down. He juked everybody. He was amazing, and then he falls without contact. But it just is what it is. But, dude, the guy is so good. So he had 9 for 89 yards today, a 9.9 yard average, or against the Dolphins. And for the season, he has 1,103 yards with 4 touchdowns. 1,104 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that's a good case. It's a very good case to be made that Garrett Wilson is the Offensive Rookie of the Year. The problem is there's a man out there named Kenneth Walker, and he has 199 rushes for 936 yards, 4.7 yard average, and all that's beatable. When you add on to it, he has 9 touchdowns. It's going to be hard to justify. In my opinion, it's going to be hard. Now, is Garrett Wilson better? I don't know. I think he is because I love him. I love everything about Garrett Wilson. But I don't know if he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year because Kenneth Walker's having himself a season. Now, and you add Kenny Pickett and the turnaround with the Steelers, and he's in the conversation. There's a few guys, right? But no matter how you slice it, Garrett Wilson is by far the best Jets wide receiver that we've had out of the box ever. Ever. The best. Number 1. Keyshawn Johnson, as much as I loved him, number 1 overall pick, great. The whole thing. Loved Keyshawn. Loved him and Corbett together. It was the best. Garrett Wilson's got them both beat. It's the truth. He's better. And the thing is with Garrett Wilson I like most is his energy, his desire to win. It's number 1 on the team, in my opinion. Nobody's got anything on that guy. So there's a lot of things to be excited about. You give Garrett Wilson a real quarterback and consistency, maybe a quarterback that plays 17 games. Imagine that. He had 4 quarterbacks this year. 4. And if you count how many times they changed, we started with Flacco, then we went to Zach Wilson, then Zach Wilson was benched, we brought in Mike White, then he got hurt, we brought in Zach Wilson, then Zach Wilson sucked, we brought in Streveler, then Mike White again for a game, then he was 5 broken ribs, and we put Flacco back in. Do you see it? Do you see the craziness? How can it be a success with this mess? Add to it the offensive line. Garrett Wilson got himself 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's unbelievable. I love him. In the running game, look, I still think Bam Knight's a stud. I still think Michael Carter's a stud. Obviously, I think Breece Hall's a stud. Did we won, 2 games since he went down? 2. He was a major piece of what we had going on, him and AVT. When they went down, we held on for a minute. We fought, we kicked, we scraped, we clawed, but it was done. Who knew? We didn't know at the time, but looking back, that's it. That was the wind out of our sails, man. And even though we got production out of other guys, it wasn't AVT and it wasn't Breece Hall. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, AVT in this offense together is a whole different thing. So that's kind of the only positive, man. Like, we have this defense. I love players like Jamie and Sherwood. That's one, right? But I really do like Jermaine Johnson. I think he's unbelievable. Michael Clemens is going to keep getting better, in my opinion. He's a stud. Sauce, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II. Like, these guys are legit. You add a ball-hawking free safety to that defensive back group, dude, we're going to be causing problems. And, like, that's how close it is. So for me, it's upsetting, but I'm not going to pieces. There has been progress this year, and that's the news of the week. To fire or not to fire? That is the question. You know, I got into a discussion with somebody this week. I got into a couple, but one real discussion. Some are just comments and people calling me ugly and stuff like that. But I got into a discussion where somebody said to me, you know, I don't think the Jets really fire as many coaches as you think, as you like to say. Like, you have this narrative that the Jets fire people. I don't think that's accurate. So I had to dissect this. I had to lay some things out for this young individual. Now I'm going to do that for you too. We're going to get into this coaching carousel thing, this leadership carousel, and we're going to do that in this week's Intelligent Gripe. So do we fire people? Do the Jets move on too quickly? Somebody said to me, well, Rex got 6 years, Bowles got 4. That's not firing people a lot. Tannenbaum had 6 years here as the general manager. You know, like, we keep people. The only one was Gase that we fired early. Okay. I can see that. I will see your Gase, and I will raise you offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. Because right now, there's a discussion going on. There is a chorus to fire Robert Saleh, but it is less than the chorus to fire Mike Lafleur. And I want you Mike Lafleur fireheads to know something. I get it. I'm with you, man. Mike Lafleur baffles me. And you can totally put the quarterback thing on him. Him and Calabrese blew it. I don't know at what point is it just Zach? I don't know. But they did not get out of Zach what we wanted to get out of Zach. Now, there's the whole Greg Knapp thing, and you can't overlook it. But here we are 2 years later, man. Okay? We had to figure this out. So you got to look at Lafleur. You got to say that you didn't do a good job there. The other thing is the use of players, right? The use of players. The Denzel Mims stuff, the Elijah Moore stuff, right? Like, I don't know. You give Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore to Andy Reid, you know what I think happens? I think they're awesome. That's what I think. Why? Because I've seen what they can do on the field. Elijah Moore had 1 reception in the Dolphins game. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, man. Okay? I look at tape, he's open. Not every play. It's not like he's the best receiver in the league. But he's open. He's enough to get 5-6 receptions. Totally. And he had 3, 6, 10, 4, 1, 3. He goes month without a single reception. It's crazy to me. So who is that? It's the quarterback, for sure. But when you start looking at all these players, you can definitely say that Lafleur has an impact on that stuff. Look at Michael Carter. He had that fumble in Buffalo, and it's as if he's not on the team anymore. Why? Did he suddenly suck? Like, where is he? He gets a play here. He gets a screen there. You know what I mean? It's interesting to me. So, like, those kinds of things, I can put that on the floor. But when you start looking at the Jets' history of all this stuff, like I said, I'm going to raise you offensive coordinators. How many have we had? Do we really fire offensive coordinators? Rex had 6 years as the head coach. Todd Bowles had 5 or 4 years as a head coach. That's 10 years, and we only had 2 coaches. Not terrible. I want to remind everybody, Rex had 3 offensive coordinators in that time. He also had 2 defensive coordinators in that time. So he had 3. He had Schottenheimer, he had Sperano, and he had Marty Morningwig. So he had 3 offensive coordinators in that 6-year period. Now, the interesting thing about that is Brian Schottenheimer was here for the first 4 years, or for the first 3 years. So really, the other 2 came in a 3-year period. So he had 2 in 3 years. You see, it started to erode. Now, we also had Rex had 2 GMs as well. He had Mike Tannenbaum and he had John Idzik. So we fired Tannenbaum, kept Rex, fired Schottenheimer, brought in Idzik, brought in Sperano, fired Sperano, brought in Marty Morningwig, fired Idzik, Rex, Morningwig, and everybody. See it? We also got rid of Mike Pettin and brought in somebody. I don't even remember who it was. So just that alone, we're talking about 3 offensive coordinators, 2 GMs, and 2 defensive coordinators in that period of time. Now let's move it over to Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, as we know, was the replacement for Rex Ryan. Now the fun part about Todd Bowles is that he was actually hired before the general manager. So whether or not the general manager was going to jive with the coach, nobody cares. We're just going to hire the coach and then pick a GM. Yep, fine. No sweat. That always works. So we had Mike Maccagnan and Todd Bowles. And they were both here for 4 years. Mike Maccagnan got a little bit longer, right? He got a couple months longer than Bowles. He got 5 drafts, interestingly enough, 5 free agent periods. But Todd Bowles, and I say this all the time, I'm like a broken record. Todd Bowles had 3 offensive coordinators in 4 years. He had Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey was there for the first 2 years. He retired. He brought in Chad Morton, right? Chad Morton was our return man. Morton. Was it Chris Morton? Forgive me. And then he fired him after 1 year. And then he brought in Jeremy Bates. So that's 6 offensive coordinators in 10 years. 6. In that time, we had 3 defensive coordinators in 6 years with the 2 coaches. We also had 3 GMs in that 10 years. Okay? So then we go out, we fire Bowles, we keep Maccagnan. Maccagnan brings on Adam Gase as the offensive head coach and Greg Williams as the defensive head coach, and they get together. They hate each other. But the person they hate even more is Mike Maccagnan. They get him out of here, and they bring in Joe Douglas. Now, Joe Douglas is a general manager with his head coach that are equal, and Greg Williams is a defensive head coach, but not equal with the other guys. Interesting pie we're making here. So Adam Gase hires an offensive coordinator in Dowell Loggins, but he's not really an offensive coordinator, right? We know that. And he doesn't hire a quarterback coach. So let's just call Dowell Loggins the offensive coordinator because that was his title here. So they were here for 2 years. Then we fire them. Joe Douglas brings in brings in Saleh, and Saleh brings in Mike Lafleur. So that is a 13-year period. 13 years. Again, 3 GMs, 4 head coaches, 8 offensive coordinators, and 4 defensive coordinators in the last 13 years since we hired Rex Ryan in 2009. Does that not sound like a lot of firing to you? Because to me, it sounds like a lot of hiring, firing, moving, shaking, upping, downing. Now, we don't even want to get started with the quarterbacks and all that kind of stuff, right? We do know, however, since 2009, we've used 3 first-round picks, all of them top 5 picks. We had Mark Sanchez, number 5, Sam Darnold, number 3, and Zach Wilson, number 2. We also used a second-round pick on Hackenberg. We used a second-round pick on Geno Smith, and we used a 4th-round pick that we traded up to get Bryce Petty. And we used a 4th-round pick on James Morgan. So you see all that. None of those guys are, the only one here is Zach. So all those guys are gone too. So again, all the GMs, all the head coaches, all the offensive coordinators, all the defensive coordinators, all the quarterbacks. And here we are. We just finished year 2 with a brand new regime, right? Year 2. Now, if we remove all the other stuff, I know it's hard to do, believe me, for us on our end, it looks like we've been rebuilding for 2 decades. That's what it looks and feels like. And to be honest, it's true. Really, since the end of Herm, like the last 2 years of Herm, we were kind of eroding. You play to win the game. Like all those kinds of things were starting.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game.
And then we move into the rebuild. Now, we made it to the AFC Championship game, so we did some good things. But it's like since then, really since 2010, let's call it, the Parcells thing was over. It kind of eroded. It was done. The Mangini stuff, he built us up as much as he was able to in 3 years. We got Revis, David Harris, Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, all those guys, right? So we had a little bit of stability and a foundation. But since then, we've been kind of rebuilding. And it feels like that over here. But if we remove Herm Edwards, Todd Bowles, Rex Ryan, Mike McCagnon, Adam Gase, Mike Tannenbaum, John Idzik, if we remove those guys and simply start looking at this team, from the minute Joe Douglas fired Adam Gase and moved on from that second half of that weird organization that was, they promoted Joe Douglas to the actual general manager role. He's no longer on the same plane as his coach. He's the coach's boss, which he was not until that day. They made Joe Douglas the boss. From that day, we're looking at 2 years, a 2-year build. And look, to be completely, we'll throw in 2020, the draft, totally. So you had that draft, but since he hired Adam Gase post that draft, we're looking at 2 years. Now, if we only look at those 2 years, because that's all these people that we're looking at are responsible for. If we look at those 2 years, there's significant improvement. Significant. It's undeniable. In the event this team had a quarterback, which is their fault, you gotta throw that at them. If they had a quarterback that was worth a hill of beans, this is a 9-10 win team. We're in the playoffs, and we're not having this conversation. So from my perspective, if they fire them now, of Robert Saleh now, Joe Douglas now, first, you're going to have to pay them. Robert Saleh has a 5-year, $5 million per contract. They're going to be paying him another, $15 million. Aside from that, we're pushing reset before we've really allowed them to expand. Now, you want to put a playoff or bust mandate on it next year? Sure. Right, year 3, you were this close this year, you got 7 wins. If you're going to improve, you got to get us into the playoffs. You got to have 9, 10, 11 wins, and you got to get into, fine, totally fine, acceptable. Pulling the plug now would be exactly what the Jets always do. And if we're going to change, you got to do something different. We cannot do the same things over and over and over and expect different results. It's not real. Yeah, you might strike lightning in a bottle and find McVay. Maybe. Sure. More than likely, it's going to be a scenario where we just have to allow guys to build on what they're building, on what they're building, on what they're building. We're 2 years into this thing. There's definitely progress. We have one of the better defenses in the NFL. They got no help from the offense this year. But with all that said, we still have plenty of talent on the offensive side of the ball, quarterback, offensive line, and this team is a playoff team. Pulling the plug now would not only be premature, in my opinion, it would be a mistake, and that is the intelligent gripe. So there you have it, man. Here, look, we're sitting here once again in the pits of despair. And it sucks, man. I'm so tired of it. And you know what I'm most tired of? You know what I was getting this week? During the Dolphins game, Steelers fans that I know were texting me, "Go Jets, yeah. I'm like, it drives me insane. With all due respect to those people, of course, I get it. But I hate being on that receiving end of that stuff. I've had it, man. 12 straight years, no playoffs. Dude. But could you imagine pulling the rug out and starting over with a whole new system? I don't know, man. I don't have the solutions. The one thing I'm going to say is I really do think firing everybody is a big mistake. Unless, of course, if Sean Payton is like, hey, I want to come all right, okay. You know what I mean? If John Harbaugh maybe is like, you know what, I want to go coach in New York, and okay, maybe, right? You consider that. Don't forget, Sean Payton is going to cost you a draft pick, too. I don't know what it is, but you're going to have to pay. And you got to pay him. He's going to be like, I want $30 million a year, and you got to pay a first-round pick, whatever it is. I don't know. But there are scenarios, right? But generally speaking, the team's playing hard. We're improving. The defense is really on its way. And if we had a 65% completion percentage quarterback, it's my firm belief that we're in the playoffs. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed episode 99. It's going to be a tenuous week or two. But we're getting started with the Monday night 10 o'clock mock 1 week from this Monday. So next Monday, the 10 o'clock mock is back. And that, in my opinion, is the most fun we have all year. I can't wait to get that started with you guys. We're going to have some real good player breakdowns with our boy Dom C going into this offseason. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do what we do best and speculate and fight about it. That's what we're going to do. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And don't forget, you can win this Manscaped Weed Whacker only for being a subscriber. And you can save 20% with my promo code GreenBean at manscaped.com. Guys, I love you. I'm sorry. I am. We can get through this together. Keep building, baby. And the New York Jets are going to make the world pay.